Hey, howdy, hey. It's go time. Welcome to Avilla Theory. We're excited to talk, I guess, to you and at you today, but we'd love if you then commented back. We're starting over.
No, don't start over. That's good. Just keep rolling with it. You're
All right.
good. Yeah.
Welcome. I'm Nicole Avilla. This is my husband, CJ Avilla.
Hi.
Hi. And today we're going to talk about investment properties. We spoke a little bit before about short-term rentals, and today we wanted to let you know what we've learned about long-term investment properties, like having renters and all the things that go along with that, and whether or not it's really worth it to own an investment property or multiple investment properties because of all of the craziness that comes with being, would that be a landlord?
Yeah, with being a property owner, landlord.
Yeah.
I think there's so the last time we talked about real estate, we were discussing the differences between short term and investment property in the eyes of like the mortgage company and the IRS. So if you're interested in those details, go check out that episode.
Yes.
Where we go into that in more depth. But I think today we have learned a number of things in our experience with long term. Many of them were bad.
Yes. No, yes.
They weren't okay. They were the result of bad situations, of things that we've learned, and so we want to pass those on. In
Mistakes
case you're
that we've made,
Yeah.
and how we will do it different should we ever have long-term renters again.
Yeah. Before we get into that, though,
Yes,
yeah.
that's
So
what
we
I was
are
gonna
again both drinking peppermint tea today, and
That's because your office is freezing cold.
I know it's great because I'm really happy that it's freezing because that means that we're not spending extra energy trying to heat this room. We did recently we tore down a wall. Was that 2 years ago? Something like that. We tore a wall down like 2 years ago, and then like just 2 weeks ago or so, I put the wall back, and this time with insulation. So it is changing the thermodynamics in here a little bit.
Well, we're both drinking from the infamous Starbucks cups that I collected for a while, but I kind of got to the point where I really only want to collect new ones if I've been there or I am there. So, I mean, I've gotten, I think, all of the local ones. So today I have my Maryland cup.
What's the story there?
Well,
When did you go to Maryland? You've been to Maryland?
I have been to Maryland.
I didn't
for about
know that.
10 minutes.
Okay.
It was a layover.
Okay.
It was when I first started collecting the cups. I only had like 2 or 3. So we were on our way to Massachusetts. It was my dad and my brother, Ryan. And we had the fastest layover I've ever had. I mean, we were sprinting across the airport trying to get to our connecting flight. And they both knew that I really wanted to try to collect a cup if I could. So as we are bolting across this airport, because of course the connecting flight was on the other side of it, like a mile away, I spotted a Starbucks. And so I dove in and grabbed a cup, and then the rest is history. Here it is.
Okay. So it was really just like an airport. It's an airport.
So
cup.
I have not been to Maryland other than that.
Okay.
So it doesn't really
Cool
fit
story.
my criteria.
Okay. I'm drinking out of the Seattle cup. Was this Seattle cup from our family trip to Seattle? Wait.
No, we have not had a family trip to Seattle.
We haven't. When is this from deployment time? No way.
No, this one, because we have been to Seattle before, when I heard my mom was traveling there, I asked her to bring a Seattle cup back.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, but that's part of the other series.
Oh, gotcha.
I really like the You Are Here series the best.
Which series is this one? Been there. Okay. That really opens it up, right? As Starbucks.
Right.
Yeah, if someone is really passionate about like You Are Here, then they're not going to get a been there just because they've been there. But if they have been there, then they're totally comfortable getting a You've Been There.
I'm confused already.
All right, let's get into it.
All right.
So, yeah, a couple things. Number one, make sure you find good renters.
Right.
Right? Like,
Okay, let's back up a little bit.
yeah, how do you
you
figure
do
out
that?
what a good renter is?
You know what I think we should also mention? You don't have to do any of this if you don't want to.
Yeah.
You could hire somebody.
That's definitely worth mentioning. you can hire like a real estate agent, right, to find you a renter,
Yeah.
and then
I mean, not any real estate agent can do it. They have to have their property management license.
okay,
And then once you find one, they will have their own fees. It's usually about 10% of the monthly rent, though, which can add up really fast.
so you can use this agent though for both like managing your property long term or like just finding the renter, right?
Yes.
Like how
then
much
it's
are we
a
talking?
different fee, and I don't know the pricing.
Okay.
But they will basically do all of the work. They will find the renters. They'll advertise for the house and they will show it. And then they will run the credit checks. And I believe each state has different laws about what rules they have to follow as property managers. Mm-hmm. It's completely different than if you rented it yourself. Like they can... they can't rent to certain people with certain dogs, or they can't ask certain questions that you as a layperson can. They're also, I think, maybe even a little bit stricter about who they put in the house.
The agents are?
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, then they'll find someone, and then they have the rental agreement, they draw it up, and then they meet with the renters and they get it signed. They do all of that. All you have to do is continue paying your 10% fee each month. And then whenever there's an issue, like the dishwasher stops working or whatever, mm-hmm. the renter always contacts the agent. Mm-hmm. And so then the agent will generally have contacts of their own, so they know they can send out a handyman to go fix the fence or whatever. They'll get a quote. Then they contact you and they're like, hey, this is what's going on. Do you approve this amount for it to be fixed? You say yes or no. Done.
Got it.
But if you're charging, $1,500 a month, mm-hmm. that's $150 to your agent. Mm-hmm. Times that by 12, it can get pretty expensive.
Yeah, that's pretty pricey. But there's definitely a lot of stress that comes with dealing directly with renters.
But I think that when you haven't done it before, you don't realize that.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to think, no, like I can do that all myself. Why am I going to pay somebody?
Yeah.
Which is what happened to us.
Yeah. So if you're doing your own, if you're like trying to fill your own property, right? You go out, you invest in investment property, you buy a house, and you want to get renters into the house. What is the process, and what are the parts that you think make sense to do yourself versus having the agent do? Mm-hmm. I think those are all really good things, and it's good to know that you can put off like almost the entire thing onto the agent. Like, mm-hmm. It sounds like you can basically just find a real estate agent that specializes in both property management and like buy side. What is it called? When the agent works
buyer's
for the
agent?
Buyer's agent. You find a buyer's agent that works with property managers. Then they can help you find the house, buy the house, and then they can fill the house with tenants and then manage it for you, and you can be like more hands off. Mm-hmm. So that's one option. Another option, if you wanted to get into investing in real estate, I guess would be in sort of the real estate. Buying real estate as part of like a REIT, as like an REIT, the Real Estate Investment Trust. It's kind of like a stock. You buy like a share of it, and the people who manage the stock, they actually like go out and buy the property for you. Another option is something like roof stock, where you again just buy like online. You buy like portions of property online.
Okay.
Those are all, as far as I understand it, very hands-off for dealing with renters. Mm-hmm. But in our experience, we dealt 100% with the renters.
Yep. So let's say this is the route you choose to go down.
Yeah.
First thing you have to do after you buy the house is to find your renters.
Yep.
And I guess, how did we even come up with how much we thought we should rent it for each month?
Yeah, so I guess I did my own comps, like pulled my own comps by looking at Craigslist and looking at Zillow to see what else in the area was being rented at that rate. Mm-hmm. And like apartment, a lot of those like websites for people to find apartments or rental houses have recently been rolled up. So a lot of them like tie back to the same systems. So if you go into Zillow as a landlord, you can put up your listing like pretty easily.
Right.
And that will syndicate out to a bunch of different like places where people find rentals.
Okay. So then you've done a little bit of research, just kind of pick your price.
Yeah, so you pull some comps, you pick your price, and we picked ours like pretty high. I think we stabbed at like, what if we can hit like the 85th to 95th percentile of like rental prices for homes of this size in this neighborhood. And so yeah, we pick a price, throw it out there, and then you kind of just wait to see if you get any.
Where are you throwing it out?
So I put it on Craigslist, but I also put it on, I think it was through Zillow. So through Zillow, you can create your own rental listing and then publish it. And then when you publish through Zillow, you can optionally syndicate that same listing data. So the photos and descriptions and amenities and all that out to like Trulia and a bunch of other sites. I can't remember all of them, but it was like Homes for Rent or something like that. So it sends it out to all of those different places, and then you just start getting emails from renters, emails and or texts or calls from potential renters who want to come check out the property. So then you have to like, it's definitely a process that's not like overnight and takes quite a bit of effort to like schedule all the appointments for the showings and making sure the house is like, in our case, it was in the middle of summer, so we had to like make sure the air conditioning was on and everything was ready to rock to show at like any time. Which can be inconvenient unless you sort of like stack it all up and say like, all right, we're going to do all the showings on Saturday or something.
Right. I mean, I guess if you have enough interest, you could always do a sort of open house.
Right. Yeah.
Say, I'm going to be there Saturday between 2 and 4, come by. But sometimes the market is not
that high demand.
Yes.
Yeah. And when we were in the Bay Area, it would be like, we're having an open house from like noon to 3 on Saturday. Like that was your only time to come see it.
Yeah. You could not schedule anything privately.
And then you walk out, like when you walk in at that open house time, there's like 4, 5, 6 other families looking at the same thing.
And you were like begging the property manager, like, hey, look at how awesome I am. Please rent to me. Like it was such a tough market.
Yeah. You got to turn on the Jeff magic.
Yes. So that was not our experience here.
Yeah, so
you need, generally, you're going to have to go to the house multiple times to let people see it. But I would say it's worth it to be patient.
Totally, yeah.
And be picky.
Yeah, the other thing is that you want to definitely do a credit check and set your standards before you run the credit. Like say, I'm not going to allow anyone who has less than a 550 or less than a 600 or whatever credit score, and make sure that is clear and outlined so that when you run the credit, you're not like weighing that as one of the things. Like that should immediately disqualify someone. We had some really bad experiences with some very, very low credit score
also renters. Something to consider is if you set your price too high, then the only people who are even willing to really do that are maybe those who don't have high credit, because they're like, nobody else is willing to rent to me. Are you willing to rent to me at this higher price, even though my credit is pretty poor?
Right.
And I would say, don't do it.
Don't do it. Not worth it. So when we were going through this, I used a service called cozy.co, which is, it is like a portal, kind of like Airbnb, I would say, but it's for long-term rentals. And it lets you do a bunch of really, like obvious things that you would need to do as a landlord for a long-term. One of those is renter screening. So they do like police check, background check, credit check type stuff for you.
And how much is that?
I can't remember how much the credit check stuff was, but, the actual service was depended on like how fast you wanted to get paid out. So if you were comfortable waiting 3 days for the rent check to come through, then it was free. I want to say. But if you want to like speed it up, then you could pay extra money.
Okay.
And it looks like the background and credit report is like $40 total if you bundle it together, which was pretty convenient.
Yes.
So, you know, you could also, I don't know about here in Northern Nevada, but in the Bay Area, the landlords would charge all of the tenants money to have their credit run. Do you remember this?
No.
So like when you apply, you had to pay like $100 or
per person,
like $50 or something to have your credit run. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's another option. If you need to run credit and it costs a lot of money, I'm pretty sure that's cool, but maybe that's not legal. I don't know. We're not legal experts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how we did our renter screening. A couple of things to look out for. If you say no animals, then there are lots of like protections for service animals. So if I were to do this again, I think I would be a little bit more clear about that. Like, you know, asking up front if they have a service animal, and then making sure that they have all the documentation about that service animal and that it's one animal and that it's, you know, there is like a extra, you know, checkups or whatever, so you can go in and see if the animal has done any damage. Because we had a renter stay and they said they had one service animal and it ended up being like 2 or 3 like pit bulls or something crazy.
Which we heard from the neighbor after they moved out. So that was a little too late.
Too late, yeah.
I also want to mention we said no animals because we just didn't want the wear and tear on the house. But if you're going to do that, it's limiting your options for who can stay there, because a lot of people have dogs.
Yep.
So just know that if that's something you're going to say no to, your house might sit empty longer until you can really find that right tenant.
Yeah. That said, these dogs tore up the backyard. We had to pay a couple $100s to have a landscaper come and fix the backyard.
Which brings us to our tip of checks. Like visit the house, go inside. How often do you think?
I think maybe quarterly.
Okay.
What do you think?
I'd say at least. Yeah.
Just to like go in and do your, you know, like replace the batteries and smoke detectors.
I feel like, I was going to say that. I've had someone tell me that the landlord at their rental would come replace the air filters.
Yeah.
And so that like gives you an excuse to get in there. And air filters is what, every 3 months? Something like that. Yeah. So then you get a chance to see if the house is being taken care of.
Speaking of filters.
Yeah.
What we should share our like filter service. What is it called? Filter Easy?
Yeah, I was going to say Easy Filter. It's one of those subscription services. So I created us an account, and you can pick like what type of filter you want. Obviously, you would pick what size you need, but then also like the level of filtration. And then you can set yourself up on a schedule, and it just automatically appears at our doorstep every 3 months, I think it is.
Yep.
And it's fantastic because I've always been in charge of this for some weird reason. But I don't know, like how often do you remember to pick up a filter?
Yeah, doing like preventative maintenance like that is hard to remember, and having it just show up like at your doorstep, and then it's such a quick thing. You just open the, you open the intake, the air intake for the forced air.
Yeah, I definitely have a code for that though. If you want to try it, I think it's like a $5 or $10 off or something.
Oh, nice.
For new,
Okay.
So I'll definitely share that. There's something else I was going to say about it though. Oh, just how awesome it was the last time. We have, what's the name of our thermostat?
Nest.
We have Nest, and it had said, time to change your filter. And then, like, I feel like a few minutes later, there was a knock at the door. And it was like UPS dropping off our new filter.
Gosh, that's perfect.
Like, okay, that worked out nicely.
It's great. I wonder if you could, like, connect the Nest to Filter Easy, like authenticate.
Maybe,
like the
yeah.
Okay, so that's one. Schedule some sort of visits where you can go and check in on the, you know.
Ooh, back to, so you found your magical renters.
Yep.
Do you collect first, last, deposit?
Yeah, so first, last, and security deposit. There's some like crazy rules in some states around how you have to hold the security deposit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's first, last, and deposit. So it's basically like 3 months.
That is so much money.
Rent. It is, but
especially I remember when we were in the Bay looking at houses that were like $3,500.
Yeah.
3 times 35.
Yeah. I mean, they want like 10 grand.
It's just like 10 grand to put down on your rental.
I know.
We didn't have to do 3 times. There's no way.
We did.
No way.
Yeah. That's how you got to do it, because if it's very likely that, especially if you're managing this by yourself and you don't have the resources to like pull in a legal team and get someone evicted and blah, 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 then someone might just skip out and not pay their last month rent, which can totally happen. And so you want to make sure you have first,
not
last.
Totally. It happens.
It definitely happens.
Yeah, it definitely 100% happens.
It's not good. So you should collect first, last, and a full security deposit. The security deposit might need to be held in some sort of special type of like escrow account or something, and or like they pay it with a cashier's check.
And rental agreements, where have you found those?
So I think there is like a standard Nevada, like state of Nevada rental agreement that I found. Okay. Yeah.
So just Google.
Yeah. Usually I just Google around. You might want to like sit down or pay a real estate agent like hourly, or an attorney that specializes in real estate, just like an hour to help you make sure that the language that you have used in your rental agreement makes sense.
Yeah. You're protecting yourself.
Yeah. A couple of things that are nice to include in there are clauses around like if there is an HOA complaint or an HOA fine, then it's like the renter is responsible for compensating you for that. So if they're not, keeping up with the landscaping, or for some reason they, have like a dead car in the driveway and the HOA fines you, $200 or something, then you can pass on that fine to the renter. So that's something that's worth keeping in there. Another thing is having a fee that is related to your late fee. So in the rental contract, it's important to make sure that you cover yourself for when the guest may be late on their rent. So if your renters are paying, maybe they're going to like consistently pay you like 10 days late or something, you want to incentivize them to pay you on time so that you can make your mortgage payment and make sure that you have, the cash flow at the time that you expect, and you're not like waiting and, having to nag them. That can be very stressful. And so one thing the way that we had it set up was you have a 3-day grace period. Rent is due on the 1st, and you have a 3-day grace period. After those 3 days, every day that you go over, so on day 4, it costs $25 per day late fee. So if you pay on the 4th day, then it was rent plus $25. If you pay on the 5th day, it's rent plus $100. No, plus $50.
Yeah.
Pay on the 6th day, rent plus $75. 7th day, rent plus $100. And this was actually like a tool that we were able to use to kind of like offset the stress. Like we were getting super stressed, but we were making like an extra $350 a month.
They were late.
They were late so much.
I have to say, as the landlord, you have got to have a pretty strong backbone, because it's hard to say no sometimes. And so like if they're texting you or calling you and they're like, I'm so sorry, this happened, I promise to have it to you by the 15th. Will that be okay? Like, no, that's not okay.
It's never okay. And don't let it happen the first time. And in fact, sorry, I'm talking over you.
No, go that. Yeah, same point. Like, I mean, it's just, you want, I don't know, as a people pleaser, I want to be like, I get it, it's fine. But no, this is a business.
Yeah, and there are rules. So the thing I was going to mention is like when you go, if you need to, for some reason, evict the renter, there's rules about evicting them that say, like, if you gave them a bunch of slack and you weren't upholding the contract on your end, then like a lot of the contract becomes void or something like that. So like you're not able to actually like evict them or recoup late fees or things like that. So it's really important that you are, stick to your word and do what you claim in the contract here. So,
I mean, no other business is going to allow you to be late without any consequences. Your credit card payment, your car payment, like all of those things are going to have some sort of repercussions. So,
And again, this is another thing where if you're not comfortable,
hire
an agent. Exactly, hire an agent. If you're not comfortable doing the work and, standing up and saying, like, no, you must pay on time, then definitely hire an agent. Right.
I like you have a tip in there about landscaping. I think that it would be a really great idea to incorporate maybe a monthly or a quarterly landscaping company to come out and take care of the property.
Yeah.
Just so you're covering yourself, Eventually, maybe someday you're going to want to resell this and you don't want to have to redo any of the front or backyard. So including that in your monthly rent could help you cover that already.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. And I think that was one of the things that helped with fighting back. Like there were certain HOA things that came up because we weren't maintaining the front yard.
Right.
And by having the landscaper go over there, was it like once a month or something? Like maybe once every 2 months. We definitely had him go out and turn on and turn off the sprinklers when it was, change of season. And then we had him go out and do a cleanup when we got a notice that, the yard was messy. And then I think at that point started saying like, all right, let's just have the landscaper go once a month or once every 2 months or something. Maybe. I don't know. I think that would be a good...
Totally.
Definitely like worth it.
And I wouldn't leave it up to the renter. I wouldn't say like your options are to pay an extra $30 a month and not worry about landscaping or take care of it yourself, because they're probably going to say, I don't want to spend, an extra $360 a year. I'll do it myself. But then maybe they won't, or maybe they're not doing it up to your standards, or the HOA standards. So I would just take care of it.
I agree.
Wrap it up in the monthly fees.
Is there anything else you could think of that you would wrap in the monthly?
I don't think so. I think that I would definitely have them, if it's possible, depending on your property, like have them pay for all of their electricity and cable. As an owner, we paid for water.
I don't think we paid
just
for
sewer
water.
And garbage.
Yes.
Okay.
Sewer and garbage are important because if you don't pay for garbage, then you don't know if they're going to just like leave trash or something. I was worried about that. Like if we don't pay for trash, are they just going to like have piles of trash in the house? What do you think about the size of a long-term, like the actual physical size of the property? Like if you were to do this again, would you have bought, I think was it 4-bedroom? 4-bedroom?
It just depends on where you're trying to buy something. We were purchasing out in an area that is full of families.
Yeah.
And we wanted to get the most for our money. And so we felt like a 4-bedroom was what the average family really wants to live in. I mean, the average size family is like 2 or 3 kids.
Yeah.
So it just depends on what you're, I don't know, I guess what you're trying to accomplish. Like if we were buying something downtown, I would have bought, a 1-bedroom or a studio or something to try to appeal to maybe a single person who already works downtown and just wants to be close to all of the live action of whatever.
Yeah. So for most of so the short-term rental that we have is very family-friendly. It's targeted at families. When we bought this long-term, it was targeted at families. Yeah.
What I was going to say is that the short-term, people go to Tahoe to do things outside. They don't go to Tahoe for a luxury house.
Yep.
So having only 2 bedrooms at that house, I think is totally fine.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I was going to point out is something to think about is if you have the money to buy a big 4-bedroom, then you might consider cutting that in half and buying 2 1-bedroom or 1 or 2-bedroom houses, because then you sort of spread out your load across 2 different sets of people. You're diversifying, right? So if we had, instead of buying a big 4, spread out your load. Yes. Sorry. If you instead take your investment and diversify it by buying multiple smaller properties that are easier to maintain, And if you, let's say you buy, instead of buying that big one, we bought 2 smaller ones, then it's possible that like maybe one of them we were having a really hard time getting a renter for it.
Right.
But if the other one was rented, then we're only out like one of the smaller mortgages and not like a big mortgage every month.
I think it really just depends on the demand. Like maybe you want to take an agent out to lunch. Be like, what are you noticing? Like, I'm sure when I was working in real estate, you could call our office, a family would call and be like, we're looking for a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom. What do you have? And we're like, nothing. There's nothing. Everything is completely full. So just go and pick someone's brain and they can maybe say like, oh yeah, get 1-bedrooms. 1-bedrooms are in high demand right now. You can definitely charge quite a bit.
Yeah.
I guess just do your research.
Yeah, do your homework for sure is definitely like the point there. Let's see. Be meticulous about the math, like the break-even math, and there are a lot of things that you won't think about that go into the actual cost of ownership. So when you're looking at buying the property, there are closing fees. You're going to have your mortgage to pay for, your taxes, the principal of the mortgage, the insurance, maybe even in the case of an investment property, you're putting 20% down, so you don't have to pay property mortgage insurance. But you do have to pay those utilities that we talked about. You want to pay for the sewer. You want to pay for the garbage. You may also want to pay for landscaping and maybe a property manager and maybe...
And you will need to pay for electricity in between renters.
Yep.
You can't show a house in the middle of summer with no air conditioning.
Yep. You will likely pay... every time that the house is empty or vacant, you're going to have to pay the entire mortgage and utilities and whatever. But also, every time that you switch, there's oftentimes like startup fees for some of these utilities. You have to pay like $100 to like turn the water on or things like that. So there's going to be like switching costs every time that you flip the house and have a different renter come stay. Other things that you may not think about is like cleaning fees. You have to pay to have the carpets cleaned. You'll have to pay to have a cleaning staff come over and deep clean and scrub the whole property. Landscaping we talked about. You may need to like replace or remodel certain things. Yeah. So like the doors were like falling off the cabinets or
even just the normal stuff you would have to take care of when you own a house.
Yeah, paint and
servicing air conditioning and water heaters breaking I mean, there's just so many things. Owning a house is very expensive.
It's very expensive.
So
maybe don't do it.
Just setting money aside each month. If your mortgage is only $1,000, but you're charging $1,500, maybe saving a little bit of that $500 for when something breaks.
Yeah. Another thing that's important to think about too is that actually being the primary owner and like handling the renters yourself and kind of dealing with all of this yourself is much easier if you're handy. If you are comfortable like attaching and detaching dryer hoses and replacing toilets and like outlet fixtures and cleaning carpets and stuff like that.
If you live near the property.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be the one fixing it, they call you 2 p.m. on a Saturday and you're about to go off to some birthday party and they're like, oh my goodness, something is clogged.
Yeah.
Then you have to race out there because you don't want to leave them.
Yeah, and you don't want to expect your renter to like clean out make sure that the shower can still drain. I don't know. If you do want them to do that, maybe you should put it in the rental contract.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, in terms of being an absentee property owner, like a landlord that doesn't live in the same place, did you have experience with that when you were helping out with property management stuff?
Yes, you mean like not living in the same state?
So
yeah.
How did that work?
Exactly how I described before. I mean, the agent just took care of everything and any financial decisions that needed to be made. You just call them up and say, look, the fence fell over. I've called somebody. They said it'll, cost this much to fix it. Do you approve? And they say, yeah, send me the receipt. And that's it.
Gotcha. That's pretty convenient.
It is so nice.
So it's also worth mentioning, too, that long-term property management costs less than short-term. when it's a short term like Airbnb, you can do this thing called co-hosting or have like an official property manager that manages it for you. Oftentimes those short term property managers are going to charge 20, 25, 30%.
Yeah.
So it is much more expensive, but there's also a lot more involved because you are cleaning the property 2 to 5 to 6 times a month. You're coordinating and communicating with now like dozens of different renters throughout the year. You are managing the listings on a bunch of different sites. It's not just like a one-time fill the property and then maybe you're done for a year or 2 or 3. You have to kind of like constantly deal with.
Yeah, there's a lot more work involved.
Yeah, so if you can do the short-term or long-term with a property manager, and that takes off a lot of the work, but if you're doing either, it's going to be kind of expensive.
Yeah.
So if you have, I would say like, if this is something that interests you, try to put more money down. And like ideally you buy it cash and then you use a property manager, and the property manager's cut comes directly out of the like rent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you're just kind of like making a little bit of profit each month, but not everyone's in that situation. And this has been definitely one of the highest leverage tools to increasing our net worth.
Absolutely.
Has been like elbow grease, sweat, tears, painting at midnight.
Although we have horror stories about our long-term renter, like we spoke with our neighbor the other day and he has multiple properties and he's like, I've never had any issues. My renters are great. But he also said like he's
really picky.
Yep. So I would say take the time at the beginning to find that perfect.
Yeah. Do not rush the renter screening process. Yeah.
So with all of that, would you do it again?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think like going into it again though, I would definitely buy something smaller. So for the record, the house that we bought that we were renting out long term was way bigger than our own primary house. Like it did not make very much sense because it was such a beast of a house. And if I were to do it again, I definitely would have broken it up into maybe 2 or 3 like studio or 1 bedroom, or maybe even like a duplex to spread out the issues and the management and.
But then you have multiple people calling you.
You do, but it's only
3 times as many people.
It is, but you cut the risk in half.
The financial risk.
You cut the financial risk in half by doing it that way.
But your workload increases 3 times.
Maybe. I don't know. Like. Potentially, yes. But I think that's definitely something I would do. I would love to buy some land and build a house and rent it out. Or maybe buy some land, build a house and Airbnb it.
Cool.
She's rolling her eyes at me right now. You can't see this, but she's giving me the hardest side eye. Like,
go ahead and do that, dear.
The remodel for the Airbnb was really... it was a ton of work, and we had babies, and
I mean, if money isn't an issue, then yeah, let's do that.
Oh, okay. So it's for you. It's more like a financial thing.
Yeah.
Than it is like okay. I don't know. I'm just getting the itch again.
Okay.
It's been like 2 years since we did
well,
that big
let me tell you, I have
remodel.
lots of projects for this house. So if you want to work on something, I'd like some new floors.
Oh
maybe
my
some new
gosh!
paint.
Oh my gosh!
I can keep you busy.
All right.
No problem.
Speaking about staying busy, what have you been busy with these munchkins? Oh my gosh.
Oh boy. So Logan is sick, and it started off with just a fever, no big deal. And then midnight one night, it was an awful, awful cough, and he was up like every 30 minutes, just coughing or whimpering a little bit. So the next day I was like, I got to take him to the doctor. And I couldn't get him in until the early afternoon. And so he stayed home from school and pretty much slept all day.
Very uncharacteristic of this young chatterbox.
Yes, complete opposite. And so it's like, yeah, he must not be feeling good. Take him in. They swab him. He tests positive for the flu.
The flu. Dun, dun, dun.
So, I mean, the flu is a virus. There's not much you can do for it except try to support your immune system. So that was on a Thursday. yes, that was on a Thursday, and we're now on Sunday, so we're on day 4 of the flu. Mm-hmm. The 3 of us who live with Logan are all terrified.
Yeah, we're walking around in those suits from Monsters Inc. that they're like,
oh yeah, 2319. Yeah. Knock on wood, we're all doing okay. I think because we all see the same doctor's group, and that's where I took him. The nurse practitioner was like, I can prescribe the Tamiflu, which I guess helps to reduce the symptoms, to everyone in your family, and you can take it, preventatively. So we've all been on it. And
I mean, we probably all are fighting it, at least a little bit.
Yeah, I think we've all been exposed to it, and the flu is pretty serious. So he's doing much better, though. I mean, Thursday, I said that he pretty much slept, but every day since then, his energy has just increased, which makes it very difficult because we want to quarantine him to his room. Mm-hmm. But he's such an extrovert.
Yeah.
He just wants to talk.
He wants to talk. I showed him today how to text.
Oh, yeah, he did.
And it's pretty funny.
Yeah, so that is what I have been doing.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. How about you?
I have also been doing all of that, right? I'm helpful, right?
You are very helpful.
Yeah. But the only other thing that I wanted to do is give a big shout out to Rose for her hangover cure. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yes.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was another story.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a hard morning the week before last.
Yeah.
So we asked for hangover cures. And what was hers?
Hers was Red Bull and Advil.
Nice.
I don't know.
I've never done that. I've never had Red Bull.
Oh, another, let's do some shout outs. Like, lots of people have started reaching out and started following us on Insta. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we really appreciate the love.
Yes.
It's been nice. We would love to feature you if you have like your own little business. If you're running, a started self business at home, like your own thing. Mm-hmm. What is the name for that? If you have like an at-home business and it's the holidays, we're going into the holidays. We'd love to like represent and, give you a shout out. So we've got a couple folks in mind, but if you're interested in doing a little interview with us or something.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Mm-hmm. We've got a lot of friends who are doing really cool stuff, and I'd love to have them on and have them strut their stuff and tell people in the world.
I'm looking at your list now. I'm like, where is he going with us?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. No, okay. So that's basically it. The only thing I want to leave you with is that my brother started doing stand-up comedy, and it's hilarious.
It is.
It's really good. I'm so proud of him. He's killing it. Mm-hmm. So if you're in Northern Nevada and you want to go check out some really funny comedy.
Well, we haven't asked him if that's
We haven't asked him, but
but we think you should go.
Throwing him under the bus, and we think you should go check out his stand-up. It's super, super funny. Really fun. And yeah, I think that's all I've got.
Great. Well,
all right. Enjoy those last few days of Disney Plus, everyone. Free Disney Plus.
Yeah. Take your vitamin C. Wash your hands. Drink your water.
Hide your kids.
Hide your kids. Protect yourself from the flu.
Yes. All right. Peace.
Bye.